This is where they make the world's guns. The Belgians have Liège, we used to have Birmingham. The Italians have the Valtrompia Valley. Nature gave this little part of northern Italy the raw ingredients from which gun-making dynasties are born. We're here to discover more about the company Rizzini, but the main road is a red carpet flanked by the stars of the shooting industry: Fausti, Zolli, Beretta.
Wherever you get mountains and rivers, you generally get coal and steel. And where you get coal and steel, you get gun making.
On this trip, we join Edward King of Anglo Spanish Imports, ASI. For the last 8 years, Edward has been working with the Rizzini family to develop their range of side-by-sides and over and unders with the British shooter in mind.
One of the things which attracted us most to Rizzini is the fact that they are big enough to have a factory full of machinery and to take advantage of the best in technical advances. If I told you what was there, I'd then have to take you outside and kill you. You'd then be turned into little pellets to put in people's fireplaces, while at the same time not being so big that they can't take into account the specific requirements of either a market or even an individual.
The options available for people are as plentiful as the artisan businesses that work hand in glove with this gunmaker. Our first port of call on our trip is probably the most famous engraving house in the world, Bottega Incisioni di Cesare Giovanelli. These exceptional artists have spent years honing their skills. Their commissions are many and varied.
The objects created and built by man come to Bottega Giovanelli to receive a soul. The most common objects engraved for big events are pens, medals and crosses. For the Jubilee of the Roman Church and the Vatican, we won a contest to produce the pen for this event. We don't just take care of religious events, of course. For example, we produced a special gun to celebrate the first man on the moon, Mr. Neil Armstrong.
It's not just presidents and popes that can see the engravers at work. If you want a Rizzini, you can come and visit every one of the gun-making processes for free.
We have leading stock makers and we have leading stock finishers. We've got the best engraving studio in the world. And we have factories like this one here, which mean that in the space of a few short hours, you can literally design and have built for you a shotgun with every conceivable detail to your taste.
The Rizzinis being worked on today have been laser engraved, but the difference is every one of them will be hand finished, and there is a marked difference.
The best way to illustrate this is to use the example of a photocopy of an oil painting and the original itself. One is perfect depiction, but it's flat and lifeless. The other one, you can actually see the input of the artist himself in each individual brushstroke, and that's what makes it a unique piece.
From the Giovanelli studio, we drop back down the road to the Rizzini Factory. Rizzini has been making shotguns and rifles here since 1966. Filippo Adamati is the head of sales and marketing for the company and has worked throughout the gun industry and walks us through some of the processes.
This operation even is able to produce like 25 guns per day, ready for the final assembly line, and for a total of 5,000 guns per year. Now we prepare also the ejector, so action, trigger plate and barrel are already together, and then they prepare in separate place, ready for the final assembly line.
What makes Rizzini special for you?
Well, for sure we have an incredible range of products, because we are talking about over and under competition game, over and under double rifle, side-by-side double rifle, European caliber, side-by-side double rifle, African caliber, single shot rifle, combined gun. So imagine that then we have, of course, all the family are in different actions, so 12, 16, 20, 28. So imagine that is, I think, the biggest range of gun in production for a gun maker in these days, for sure.
Edward's job is to know what the British market wants and to tailor the Rizzini product to it.
So the Brits tend to prefer the slightly reddish walnut with what we call the marbled, or marble cake, they call it. Marble cake figuring is one of the descriptions, or the longer straight grain with a bit of contrast between the black of the figuring and the golden red of the background. The more Germanic markets, like Germany and Austria, prefer the burr walnut or the bird's eye walnut with lots of tiny little dots in it. And it's very interesting. You can literally walk through a factory like this, look at a whole lot of stocks, and know more or less which is going in which direction by the style of walnut that has been chosen.
In this workshop we are looking at an almost finished article. To get to this point there's a whole heap of craftsmanship and technology.
Our friend in Houston.
A lot of that happens in the basement.
What we will do here in the factory is we will turn this through a process of machining, cutting, piercing and so on, and we will end up with this, which is a machined action. Now this isn't quite ready to put on barrels yet, but you can see the difference between the two parts and quite how much work goes into turning one into the other.
As well as the metal works, there is the wood. This is one of the only machines in the world where a bespoke stock can be carved from a blank.
This illustrates how far and how close you can get to the finishing, but if you look closely, you can actually see that you're still quite a long way away from making a stock which is smooth enough to start finishing. So this machine has to work hand in hand with the stock finisher, which is the next procedure after this.
The engravers certainly add beauty and design to a gun, but people tend to appreciate the quality of the stock before they admire the metalwork. Down a quiet side street we find Bertucci's, one of the finest stock finishing houses in the world. Rizzini has been working with them for years, and that relationship is the envy of many other gun makers. This is where the rough-cut diamond is polished to reveal the walnut in all its glory.
Yeah. When you look at the wood from here, you can see that there's still a tiny little bit of pore open, and so she's filling the grain with each successive coat of this. Fascinating.
Stock finishing is not a quick process. From the sanding room we move upstairs where they add the oils, and this takes time.
I would say that Rizzini's, of all the makers that we have seen in Italy, probably put more work into researching, finding and finishing their stocks than the majority. They work very hard. It's actually it's an inherent part of the quality of Rizzini and their position in the UK market, that they work very hard on obtaining the very best quality of walnut that they can for each of the models in the range.
Of course, you may have the most beautiful stock in the world, but you will never appreciate it if it doesn't fit you. Another 5-minute car journey delivers us to the door of Essa Vieira. It's a partnership of friends Ronaldo and Valeriano Sabati. They are stock-fitting wizards who probably do wands as a sideline.
This is the world-famous workshop of Essa Vieira, who make gun stocks for most of the gold medal winners in the Olympics and World Championships. And what they don't know about measuring people for guns and making stocks basically isn't worth knowing. It's extraordinary that in this square mile of valley we happen to have, almost cheek by jowl, the leading exponents of stock making, stock finishing, engraving and gun making, all within minutes of each other. And Rizzini are bang in the middle of it and able to take advantage of all these services within minutes of their front door.
They may take traditional measurements, but then their flair takes over to create a perfect bond between shooter and stock. Technology has no place here. It's a quiet and gentle place to be, more religious than business.
This is one of the key things which the Rizzini customers come down here to do when we fly them out. In fact, there's a service plus, if you like, where they will come out here. We will book an appointment for them on the morning of day one. They'll get their measurements taken. Rinaldo or Valeriano will make the stock for them. And then on day two, they can actually take the gun out with their stock on it and shoot it at the shooting ground. And just then do the final, maybe last minute adjustments that might be done. Although it's highly unlikely. These guys are normally spot on first time round.
That completes our Rizzini talent tour. All we need to do now is shoot. At the top of the valley we go to a shooting ground with a ground sheet. Every shot is followed by the sound of lead rolling down the covers into a collecting area. It's then recycled, the value of the metal covering the cost of the setup. It looks like we are going to be contributing to the recycling this evening.
This is what it's all about when it finally boils down to it. It's standing on the range with the gun in your hand, about to shoot it. This is where the passion is distilled into something concrete.
It has been quite a day, but we have been able to see the whole Rizzini process because it is all in one small Italian town. If you want to find out more about Rizzini or to arrange a trip to see your gun being made, speak to your local dealer.